My own brother sold me out to steal our family inheritance, destroying everything, betraying blood, and starting a war that broke us beyond repair. I never thought I'd be the kind of person to feel betrayed by blood. But here I am, 29 years old, sitting in a small apartment in Chicago, trying to make sense of how my own brother turned his back on me just for a piece of inheritance. My name's Emily. I come from a modest, close-knit family where money was never much talked about. But it was there, lurking under the surface. Our parents worked hard all their lives, saved up a small fortune, and their house in the suburbs was supposed to be our legacy, a symbol of everything they built for us. My older brother Jason was always the golden child, charming, smooth-talking, and everyone's favorite. I was the quiet one, the bookworm, the girl who stayed home and studied. We were close once, but as the years went by, something changed. It started with little things. Strange phone calls Jason would take behind closed doors. Whispers I overheard but couldn't piece together. The way he suddenly started dressing better, driving a nicer car, but refusing to share the details. One afternoon, I overheard a heated phone call. Jason's voice was sharp, impatient. "You can't keep hiding it. We have a right to know. This isn't just about you." I froze. What was he hiding? Who was he arguing with? Days later, my world began to crack wide open. Our parents announced they'd rewritten their will. And suddenly, Jason was asking me questions, probing, fishing, about what I knew, what I was thinking, how much I expected to get. I felt cornered, confused, and scared. The brother I trusted was no longer the person I knew. And then the real betrayal hit. Jason secretly sided with one of our parents to cut me out, to keep the money all for himself. The calls, the whispers, the cold shoulders, it was all part of a plan that tore our family apart. And I had no idea how far it would go. I still remember the exact moment when my world began to crumble. After overhearing that phone call, my mind was a tornado of confusion and fear. I wasn't sure who to trust anymore. Not my brother, not my parents, maybe not even myself. I decided to keep my suspicions to myself. I pretended everything was normal, wearing a mask of calm and pretending to laugh at family dinners. But inside, every look, every whisper, every suspicious silence stitched itself into a growing nightmare. There were small things I couldn't ignore. Jason suddenly forgot to tell me about family meetings. Documents went missing. Conversations abruptly stopped when I entered the room. And worst of all, I started noticing my parents' strange glances. The kind that said more than words ever could. One night, I found a stack of unopened mail addressed to me. Bills, legal notices, bank statements, all shoved behind a pile of magazines in the living room. When I confronted Jason, his smile was tight, forced. "It's nothing," he said, "just some mix-up." But I knew better. The more I looked, the clearer it became. Something was very wrong with the inheritance situation. Jason was not just involved. He was orchestrating everything. At times, I caught myself doubting my own feelings. Was I overreacting? Was this just a sibling rivalry getting out of hand? But the unease kept gnawing at me. Then came the biggest red flag. One afternoon, I was going through some old family albums and found a photo hidden behind the frame of our parents' wedding picture. It wasn't a picture of us, but a legal document, partially torn, with Jason's signature on it. It looked like some kind of will, but with my name scratched out. My heart stopped. The truth was right there, staring me in the face. Jason wasn't just competing for the inheritance. He was trying to erase me from it entirely. That night, I couldn't sleep. I replayed every conversation, every moment, every betrayal. And when I checked the security camera footage I secretly installed in the study, I saw something that shattered me completely. Jason, meeting with a lawyer in secret, discussing plans to have me disinherited. I realized then, this wasn't just a fight over money. This was a war. And I was on the front lines. I couldn't sit still any longer. The weight of betrayal pressed down on me, but I was determined to uncover every secret Jason was hiding. I started watching him closely, every move, every whispered phone call, every sudden excuse to disappear. I checked his texts when I could, looking for clues. I asked friends and relatives subtle questions, trying to piece together his plan without raising suspicion. The tension inside me grew like a storm. Every day was a mix of hope and dread. Hope that I could find something concrete, and dread of what that something might be. One night, as I scrolled through his phone while he was in the shower, I found a deleted message thread that had been restored. The messages were chilling. Talks about property deeds, fake documents, and even conversations about bribing a family lawyer to alter the will. I captured screenshots quickly before he came back. But Jason wasn't oblivious. His behavior changed. He started locking his phone, avoiding me, and lying about where he was going. I felt like I was chasing a ghost, one that was always one step ahead. I struggled with the internal battle raging inside me. I was furious and heartbroken, but I also felt guilty. Had I been too trusting? Was I naive to believe in family loyalty? And then came the moment that broke me. I received a call from an anonymous number. The voice on the other end was cold and threatening. "Stop digging, or you'll regret it." But I didn't stop, because I had already lost too much to back down now. The next day, I confronted Jason with the evidence. He laughed in my face, cold and unrepentant, telling me I was making mountains out of molehills, and that I'd never see a dime of the inheritance if I kept acting like a child. The betrayal stung worse than I thought possible. But I knew this fight wasn't over. It was only just beginning. The shock of Jason's cold laughter still echoes in my mind. How could someone who shared my blood, my childhood, look me in the eyes and treat me like a stranger, like an enemy? That night I sat alone in my room, the weight of betrayal crushing me. But amidst the pain, a flicker of resolve sparked. I couldn't let him win, not without a fight. I dug deeper. Late nights were spent scanning through family records, emails, anything that could expose his plan. Then, one afternoon, I stumbled upon something that changed everything. A series of photos hidden in an old family album, pictures of Jason signing documents that weren't meant for me to see. It was clear now. He'd been working behind the scenes, manipulating, not just our parents, but the entire family's trust. I confronted my mother first. Her face was a mixture of sadness and guilt. "Jason, he's changed," she whispered. "I never wanted this to happen." But I knew better. This wasn't about change. It was about greed. The tension in the family exploded. Arguments erupted, alliances formed, and sides were taken. Our once close-knit family was now divided, each person choosing a camp, often driven by their own interests. Jason and I faced off in cold, bitter confrontations. The lines between brother and enemy blurred. At one point, I found myself questioning everything. Was it worth the fight? Could this family ever be whole again? But then, I remembered the promise I made to myself, to fight for what was rightfully mine, no matter the cost. And so I decided I would take my battle beyond words. The legal papers were drawn up, the lawyers contacted. The war for the inheritance was now in the courtroom. But little did I know, the courtroom was just another battlefield, one with even deeper scars and higher stakes. The courtroom was nothing like I imagined. No dramatic confessions or heartfelt apologies, just cold faces, legal jargon, and a battle of wills that seemed endless. Jason was as ruthless as ever, charming his way with the judge, painting me as the troublemaker, trying to steal what isn't hers. His lawyer twisted every word I said, turning my pain into weakness. Every hearing left me emotionally drained. I'd come home shaking, unsure if I'd won or lost anything at all. Friends and family were divided, some supporting me, others distancing themselves, afraid to take sides or fearing the fallout. The isolation was crushing. I realized the price of fighting back wasn't just money or possessions. It was trust, relationships, and sometimes hope itself. There were moments I questioned if I had made the right choice. Was the inheritance worth losing my family? Was I willing to sacrifice everything just to prove a point? But the memories of betrayal fueled my resolve. I remembered how Jason had looked at me that day, cold, dismissive, like I was nothing. That look ignited a fire inside me I couldn't ignore. Slowly, I began to rebuild my support system, reaching out to those who still believed in me, finding strength in their words and encouragement. Flashbacks haunted me too. I thought about my mother's silent glances, my father's disappointment, and the subtle signs I had missed. I realized this fight was bigger than just a will or money. It was about uncovering the truth of who my family really was. And in that truth, I found something unexpected: clarity. I wasn't just fighting for inheritance, I was fighting for myself. After months of legal battles and family drama, I realized something had to change. Staying trapped in the same toxic environment was draining every bit of my spirit. So, I made a decision. I was going to start over. I packed my bags and left the city where all those memories lived. No goodbyes, no explanations. Just a quiet exit from the chaos that had consumed my life. Moving to a small town halfway across the country felt like stepping into a new world. A world where no one knew my story, where I wasn't the girl fighting her brother. But even with the fresh start, the past wasn't ready to let me go. The silence around me was louder than any argument. Questions haunted my nights. Was I running away? Was I strong enough to face what was left behind? I grappled with the pain that wouldn't fade. The scars of betrayal felt like they were etched into my soul. Then, out of nowhere, an unexpected message appeared. An email with the subject line, "I know where you are." My heart stopped. Was it Jason? A family member? Or someone else entirely? The message didn't say more, but the threat was clear. The past was still watching. And I realized, no matter where I ran, I couldn't escape the shadows of my family's secrets. But this time, I was ready. I wasn't the scared little sister anymore. I was a fighter. Facing him wasn't easy. Jason sat across from me in a cold, sterile room, the kind of place where every word feels heavy and every glance carries years of history. He looked calm, almost too calm, like nothing had ever happened between us. But I wasn't the same naive sister anymore. "Why?" I asked, my voice shaking with a mix of anger and hurt. "Why would you betray me? Our family?" He sighed, rubbing the back of his neck. "You have to understand. I didn't mean for it to go this far." I narrowed my eyes. "Didn't mean to? You ruined everything." He looked away, then back at me with something I hadn't seen before: regret. "I thought I was protecting us," he said quietly. "I thought if I controlled the inheritance, I could keep the family safe." "But you destroyed it instead," I whispered. The silence between us was deafening. And then came the twist I never expected. Jason confessed he wasn't the only one involved. Someone else in the family had been pulling strings, stirring the pot, fueling the fire between us. I was just a pawn, he admitted, and I'm sorry. The truth hit me like a lightning bolt. This wasn't just about greed or betrayal. It was a web of secrets and lies that had been hidden for years. For the first time, I saw Jason not just as my enemy, but as someone trapped in the same mess. We both had been hurt, both used, and maybe, just maybe, this was our chance to stop fighting. After that intense confrontation, a strange calm settled between us, but the storm wasn't over. I went home that day feeling both relieved and broken. The truth had lifted a veil, but it also exposed wounds that ran deep. Days turned into weeks, and the silence in our family home grew heavier. I found myself alone with my thoughts more often than not. The house echoed with memories, laughter, arguments, secrets whispered in the dark. I didn't cry much. It wasn't that kind of pain. It was a quiet ache, a hollow emptiness that clung to my chest. One evening, I pulled out an old photo album. Pictures of happier times, family vacations, birthdays, smiles frozen in time. I traced my finger over a photo of Jason and me as kids, arms wrapped around each other, innocent and trusting. I wondered if that version of us still existed somewhere beneath the layers of betrayal and hurt. Slowly, I started writing again. Letters to myself, to Jason, to the family we once were. Not to send, but to heal. I realized healing wasn't about forgetting or forgiving right away. It was about accepting the scars, the losses, the changes. One morning, as sunlight spilled through my window, I felt a flicker of hope. Maybe one day we could rebuild, not as the family we were, but as something new, something stronger. But just as I was beginning to believe in that future, a chilling email arrived. This isn't over. Watch your back. And suddenly, the past rushed back, relentless, unforgiving, and haunting. I knew then, healing would be a battle, one I wasn't sure I was ready to fight yet. In the quiet moments, when the world seemed still, I found myself reflecting on everything, the pain, the betrayal, the battles fought, and those still to come. I wrote a letter to myself, not as a cry for help, but as a promise. If I could go back, I'd still walk this path, because it shaped who I am, stronger, wiser, and unbreakable. Life had thrown me into a storm, but I survived. Not because the storm passed quickly, but because I refused to let it define me. The scars I carry are reminders, not of defeat, but of resilience. I won't pretend the wounds are gone. They're etched deep, and sometimes they ache in the quiet. But I am not the same person I was at the start of this story. I am someone who chose herself, who fought for her truth, even when it felt impossible. And though the future remains uncertain, one thing is clear. I am no longer a victim. I am my own hero. Sometimes healing isn't about closure or forgiveness. Sometimes it's about simply moving forward, carrying the past, but not letting it hold you back. And as I close this chapter, I leave you with this. Not every wound needs to be healed. Some scars are meant to remind us that we lived, truly and fiercely. Because in the end, it's not about forgetting, it's about surviving.